Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and all between the binary. This is Get Informed with Wajeeh. I'm Wajeeh Lion. Thank you so much for tuning in. I have a special one for you today, where I do a deep investigation. I don't know if I should keep my radio voice or use my Saudi accent. We'll see. We'll see which one works better here for us today. Let's see. So, the U.S. just brokered a historical peace deal between Israel and Lebanon. But if you look closely at the fine print, the architects of this treaty might have accidentally designed a ticking time bomb. Today, we're breaking down the June 2026 Levant framework. Why is that math doesn't add up, and how two bitter ideological enemies are quietly working toward the exact same goal, blowing this deal to pieces. If you're asking what the Levant is a region. It includes the old, it is the historical name for all of what so called are different countries now: Palestine, Israel, if you want to add Israel in there, Lebanon, Syria, and Jordan were all one country and they were called the Levant. If you're hearing echoes, that's because we have thunderstorms today. Don't worry, I'm not at a war zone. I'm okay and safe. So there was supposed to be Pride March today, a Pride parade, but I'm assuming that as long as this thunderstorm is going and the rain is hitting, may not be going, unfortunately. Let me remind you where we are. It is late June of 2026 of this year. After a fragile ceasefire, the war exploded again. The ceasefire was in 2024 originally. The war exploded again in March of 2026. Over 4,000 people dead, 1 million plus Lebanese people displaced, and Israel occupies roughly 20% of the southern Lebanese territory. Let me remind you about what happened also in neighboring Syria, which plays an essential role at the moment. And we are currently working on writing a research so we can write an article regarding Syria's role in potentially the Lebanese Israeli conflict. We're looking at all the plans. Before I look at the research, I'm not gonna tell you anything. You might have to wait until I publish the article later today. But let me remind you, in late 2025, early 2026, the Assad regime in Syria rapidly collapsed. This is served Iran main land bridge between Iran all the way to Lebanon and Hezbollah. That bridge goes from, if I could pull out the map for you guys, give me 1 second. Believe it or not, I have access to Google Earth, and I feel like Google Earth does a better job at showing some of these things than Google Maps, and it has better quality. Let's do it this way. Are you guys ready? Gotta clean up the camera for you guys so you don't have to see blurry. Now, this is important for you guys. Right now, I'm gonna twist the map a little bit and I'm gonna make it just here. Lebanon is right there. Iran, Tehran, Iran's capital is right there. Regardless of where we're gonna take a shipment from Iran, we have to pass through Iraq. From Iraq, either Jordan, but that's then only Palestine and Israel, then you can't go to Lebanon. So you're going to be there. You can't go to Lebanon. So you have to go through Syria. But Syria used to be run by Bashar al Assad. Bashar al Assad used to be allied with Iran. Now, when Bashar al Assad government fell and Ahmad al Julani, that currently goes by Ahmad al Shara, took charge, that land bridge that Iran used to have to go to Lebanon to support their Hezbollah is all gone. Lebanon is small, yes, it's not big. This is Lebanon. It's smaller than Israel or Palestine. But if you're asking Wajeeh, what is the Levant? This is the Levant. Syria, Jordan, Israel, Palestine, goes part of Iraq. That is the Levant. I hope that's helpful. I feel like showing you guys these visuals help you guys put things into perspective. I didn't place ask your question of the day, did I? I'm not going to be looking at the questions right now, regardless. So in 2026, the Assad regime in Syria rapidly collapsed. This ruined Iran main land bridge used to supply Hezbollah with weapons and money and medicine and technology and training. Israel assumed that Hezbollah was terminally crippled because they no longer have access to that direct bridge, leading to their massive ground offensive in March. Under immense kinetic pressure, the U.S. Mediated a 14-point framework signed on June 26 in Washington, D.C., mainly with the Christian, not mainly, only with the Christian leadership that is already allied with Israel and has have had relations with Israel for a long time. They have negotiated with the IDF in Washington, D.C., coming up with this 14 points. The big headlines for the first time ever that Lebanon officially recognized Israel right to exist in peace and formally labeled non-state armed group like Hezbollah as illegal. Listen, I was informed yesterday about an account called Anti-Zionism is Racism, and I was told that I am being anti-Semitic for calling out Zionist agenda, and I was told to go and look at the definition of Zionism. I did. It's not the first time I've done that, but I went back and I did. Definition of Zionism is a nationalist movement and an ideology supporting to the self-determination and statehood of the Jewish people and their ancestral homeland, the land of Israel. The movement emerged in the late 19th century as a response to the persecution and anti Semitism, seeking to establish a legal, secured national home for the Jewish nation. I never am a person that would deny someone the right to exist. Your right to exist is absolutely there. The world doesn't have a problem with you existing, at least from my perspective. I don't have a problem with you existing. What I have a problem of is the means you use to accomplish your goals, the means you use to accomplish your agenda. That's what I personally have a problem. When I want to go and say that the Zionist agenda at the moment, it's because the ones who are running Israel are the ones who are running the Zionist agenda. And the ones who are running Israel is Netanyahu and Ben Gvir and the far right that is enforcing extremist Israeli ideology. I said it again and again and again that the solution is in the hands of the Israeli people. We can protest all we want in the West, but Israelis need to do something about the extremist ideology. I condemn Hamas action of killing thousand plus innocent Israelis, but there's no way to justify more than 50,000 plus civilians in Gaza. I don't know, the number of children alone is in the tens of thousands. That doesn't justify killing children. There needs to be a balance. There needs to be truth. There needs to be honesty. Criticizing the actions of the Israeli government is not anti Semitic. Criticizing the Zionist agenda is not anti Semitic. I have a problem with the way you are trying to accomplish your goals. You wanting to exist, sure, exist peacefully. I'm not the one that changed the world opinion and the world views on Israel. I never had a campaign in my life smearing Israel. In fact, I've been personally invited to go to Israel. I've spoken on Israel I-24 at least 14 times. I have Israeli friends who are protesting Netanyahu and are in the blacklist. But also, many Israelis are afraid of speaking up. Tell me I'm wrong. You don't want me to say Zionism or the Zionist agenda is bad. We need action. I understand you're frustrated that the world's opinion has changed, but I'm not the one controlling the world's opinion. Take a second and think about it. I'm one of the people that have been calling for people to live with each other, cohabitating, learning how to tolerate one another and live with each other and understand and put yourself in someone else's shoes. I don't have a problem with that. My main issue is when you see something wrong, you call it out. It's wrong. Yesterday, I said it doesn't matter what you want to call it, genocide, you want to call it ethnic cleansing, you want to call it murder, you want to call it war crime, you want to call it human crimes on humanity. You want to call it whatever you want to call it. So as long as you want to agree that what happened and what's happening is wrong, can we agree about what we should do next? Arguing about the details of why it is wrong, it's not going to help me or help you. I'm talking to the people who are trying to get something done. You don't need to argue with everyone. No, I need you to say it is genocide. Habibi, khalas, this person just said it's wrong. This person, he just told you, I do not agree with killing children. I don't agree with killing innocent people in Gaza. That's it. Move on. Go to the next point. Why are you stuck in that one first point? No, I need you to agree why it is wrong. That's not helping anyone. Anyways, I'm gonna keep going. I just needed to vent on that one. The entire US framework demands a sequence of process. Can you live peacefully with people who want to kill you? But not in my country. Can you live with people who want to kill you? Ask the Native Americans in America. Ask African Americans who were slaves. Ask the modern slavery that we have in Arabia. Can you live with people that want to kill you? Well, you both want to kill each other. Like, it's not like I haven't heard Israeli soldiers going out publicly saying that we want to kill innocent civilians. And it's not like I haven't heard people on Hamas side saying that we need to kill all Israelis. But you have to admit that you're both on the same page there. I didn't force you to be on that page. Again, I want to repeat the Israeli Palestinian conflict is not my cause, it's not my issue. All I'm going to say is if I see something wrong, I'm going to call it wrong and move on. If you keep asking me questions about how I view things, that's different. That's how I view things. Hezbollah must be so back to the entire US framework demands a sequence of processes. That is true that all Palestinians want all Israelis dead, but thus all Palestinians are treated as killers. I wouldn't say all Palestinians want all Israelis dead, but I'm saying that there is that feeling that there is that sentiment. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm not going to lie. acting like it doesn't exist also doesn't help the whole conversation. I'm someone that's going to hold the pen from the middle. That means both sides are going to be pissed off at me, and I'm okay with that. I'm not here to make any side happy, generally. Like, if I'm here trying to appease a side or another, then what's the point of me having my own opinions and conducting my own research and coming up with my own conclusions? If you're here for me to give you a national propaganda from one country or another, you're not coming to the right guy. I'm here to do my own thinking, my own criticism, do the research, come up with different scenarios, come up with different strategies, and then I give you my answer. So the entire US framework demands a sequence process. Hezbollah, on one hand, must be disarmed. And then, second, only then will the US, will the IDF withdraw from Lebanon. But even then, Ben Gavir is sitting inside the Israeli National Cabinet yelling at Netanyahu, how dare you do this, filing an actual legal document trying to oppose this deal and demanding that we destroy not only southern Lebanon, all of Lebanon. That's what I'm telling you guys about that I have a problem with. That's the agenda that I have an issue with. The deal relies entirely on the Lebanese armed forces, known as the LAF, to take control of these newly created pilot zones and disarm these militias. We have a catch 22, though. Hezbollah refuses to disarm while Israel troops are on Lebanese soil. Why should I disarm while the enemy, in Hezbollah's viewpoint, the enemy is still in my country? Israel refuses to leave until Hezbollah is disarmed. The treaty demands the impossible. We need to follow the money. The U.S. plans to assume that the Lebanese army can simply march south of Lebanon and dismantle Hezbollah's infrastructure. But did the Trump administration really look at the mathematics of these finances that the military has versus Hezbollah? Wajeeh, this is kind of the playground you always talk about. Yes, this is the kids' playground. So the Lebanese government is in a inflation. The LAF, roughly 60,000 troops, is broken into so many pieces. In fact, they cannot afford to feed their soldiers. They would rely solely on the US and European handouts just to pay their soldiers basic salaries. The US recently kicked in about $230 million. Now, think about it. That's not a yearly income that the Lebanese military is getting from the US. This is just a one time thing. Hezbollah operates a vast parallel economy. Even without Syria, they pull in about 800 to $1 billion annually directly from Iran. They can pay their fighters in US dollars, which is much stronger than the local currency. And they run their own hospitals, schools, and infrastructure, making the whole South loyal solely to Hezbollah. Now, expecting the impoverished Lebanese army to forcibly disarm Hezbollah is like asking a mall security guard to take down a massive, heavily armed military soldier or syndicate, if you want to call it syndicate. Financially and physically impossible. Now, there is a concept known as the spoiler. This concept is based on actors whose best interest is to sabotage a peace agreement because peace threatens their own power. First, we need to look at Ben Gavir, the Israeli security minister. He operates inside the Israeli government, leveraging his political party to threaten MPs, MP Netanyahu coalition if they accept the deal. He argues, on one hand, someone would say accurately, points out that the LAF is totally incapable of disarming Hezbollah. That's true. Therefore, he argued that the state of Lebanon is basically a Hezbollah partner and that the IDF must permanently occupy southern Lebanon. Now we need to look at the Hezbollah Secretary General Naim Qasim. He operates outside the government using kinetic violence as a veto. He's a member of the parliament or the Iraqi government. Now, eh, he argues or he calls the deal a U.S. Zionist humiliation. And I quote, apparently because their Syrian supply lines are cut, forced disarmament means total eradication. So he's threatening a devastating civil war if the Lebanese state tries anything about disarming or taking their guns away. Does that sound like anyone you know? That's my goddamn right. That's your goddamn right. I'm in it. You ain't taking my guns. Yeah. Conceal and carry, baby. So let's look at some, Nash equilibrium game theory. We have Ben Gavir and Qasim get massive political boosts from their far right extremist ideology to reject the ideal deal. Neither has rational incentive to occupy. Sorry, to cooperate. Therefore, the region defaults to mutual rejection. What I'm trying to tell you is both Ben Gavir and Qasim benefit from not cooperating. They benefit tremendously from their base. The far right Israelis kill all the Lebanese, kill all the Lebanese. Hezbollah is going, kick all the Israelis, kick all the Israelis. They're protesting. You see them on the streets. You'll see them going out. That's exactly what will be happening. Okay. So my support as a politician is going up by going against the peace deal. And Ben Gavir support from the far right is going up. And there's election coming up in Israel. Now, is there a dark side of this deal? Yes, there is a dark side. Point 13 of the framework forces Lebanon to cease all hostile actions in international legal framework. What does that mean? It acts as a blanket waiver blocking Lebanon from generating the International Criminal Court judicial jurisdiction investigation against the Israeli war crimes. So the dumbass Lebanese government agreed in this MOU to give up its right from asking the International Criminal Court from conducting any investigations regarding any human rights violations or war crimes conducted by Israel. Now, you tell me, if you are Hezbollah and you're seeing this, what would you think? You would think that the Christian representatives who are already allied with Israel just sold you out and gave your rights to ask for any investigation away. So in Lebanon, over 8,000 people died during this war, including medics, journalists. By signing away the right to justice, the Lebanese government has enraged its own civil society, not only the Shias, but everyone else, because innocent people were killed, not only Shias. This gives Hezbollah the ultimate propaganda taken. Look at your official government and selling out the blood of our victims to appease Washington. I'm quoting. Let us zoom out a little bit and look at the macro stakes. Iran, Iran, the global trade. This localized deal is actually the linchpin for global maritime trade. At the G7, President Trump announced an agreement with Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to ease global shipping gridlock. Vice President JD Vance has been leading the peace talks in Switzerland. But Iran has an ultimatum where Iran's conditions was that the US must force Israel to stop attacking Lebanon. They tied Gulf shipping directly to Hezbollah's survival. This has created an escalation loop because Hezbollah simply won't disarm and Israel simply won't stop shooting. The macro deal between the United States and Iran essentially is collapsing right in front of your eyes. Just days after the Lebanese deal was signed, U.S. Central Command started bombing Iran coastal radar sites. Trump has taken to Truth Social, threatening that if Iran doesn't rein in its proxies, the U.S. will strike harder and Iran, I quote, will no longer exist. No longer exist. What you mean? This leads me to three scenarios or four scenarios. I'm going to mention the main three. Where does this end, essentially? Someone asks. Well, we have to look at our intelligence analysis in order to predict the future. And by predicting the future, you cannot predict one scenario, you have to predict multiple scenarios. That is, if you want to be an honest predictor. Otherwise, you'd be just lying to everyone else. The first one is based on institutional turmoil. The LAF successfully, this is scenario one, the LAF would successfully disarm Hezbollah and leave Israel. I think there's zero chance of that happening. But if that happened, the money and the firepower just wouldn't be there. It's just not enough. My second scenario would be based on the theory of total collapse. The dual spoiler, in my own opinion, wins, where the deal fails and the region goes back to full scale blood warfare. According to my intel, that is the most likely scenario. My third scenario is that the deal continues on paper, but low level drone strikes and skirmishes continues further, continuing the freeze of 25 to 40 billion dollars in international restriction aid, which is currently the reality inside of Lebanon, where skirmishes are happening, attacks here and there. There is a deal on paper, and the aid just continues to be frozen. The architects of this June 26 agreement relied on a diplomatic fiction by forcing the Lebanese army to do an impossible task. Washington has handed the hardliners on both sides the exact excuse they needed to tear down the deal apart. Can you build a lasting peace on a foundation of wishful thinking? I certainly would like to know, what do y'all think? Again, we go back to Orientalism with Edward Said, where our Western leaders don't do their homework believe they have the answers for the world problems, come up with stupid ass simple solutions that complicate the problem even further. We'll see if you guys have questions. Things Wajeeh to me, excluding Hezbollah, is like handing the inheritance to the butler instead of the kid. The deal goes to whomever convenient, while the people who actually have to live in that future are shut out. Iran wanting them at the table isn't just patronage, it's rec- recognition that the a settlement which writes them off is just a pause before the next round, correct? How do you see disagreements working if the largest armed factions has no stake in the outcome? Of course, the armed factions have stakes in the outcome. Everyone has stakes in this game. But the reality is, for some people, it is live or die, like Hezbollah. You can't tell them to disarm when they think that they could be killed at any moment. I'm not against getting Hezbollah disarmed. I'm just talking why Hezbollah is not disarming. What do you think about the DHS doing? What do you think about the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, going to people's homes and asking about their posts? A gentleman was just followed by DHS to a hotel. He was saying at staying at with his 7-year-old child after visiting Finland for an email he wrote. Listen, I have to be very, very, very strategic here, huh? I support, huh, people's freedom to speak, but also I'm not trying to get DHS on my back. So we love you, DHS. You're the strongest people in the world. Leave me the fuck alone. And that's my opinion. Yeah. That's how you talk to people that, they're powerful than you, huh? Why you think we came to the US and applied for I didn't come to the US to apply for asylum, but why do you think I stayed in the US to apply for asylum? You think I'd be able to do any of or say any of that in Saudi Arabia? No. So, a wise person told me pick your battles. Maybe this is not one I should pick. Going to Canada has been proven much, much of a headache. I tried to look into it. I tried to talk to lawyers. None of them get back to you. Everyone wants to charge you a big premium before you even get a consultation. And it's just been a disappointing road to figure it out while like I'm still getting treated for my left shoulder and trying to figure out my education and everything else. I had to take a pause regarding Canada, but apparently it's also harder if you already have asylum in the US to go and apply for asylum in Canada. So it's a whole thing. Are you Teresa, do you mean MOU? Not IMO. How long has the overland bypass? I'm assuming you're asking about UAE building a land bypass to sell oil. Oh, well, the no, she's asking a question. It's not, in my opinion. Will the MOU continue with the evacuation of seafarers? I think MOU might be collapsing anytime soon as long as the conflict continues in Lebanon. There is a very good chance that this MOU will collapse. Go if you haven't read my article or attended my podcast from the beginning this morning, then I recommend that you take a second after, not a second, take the time after this podcast to go and watch it from the beginning because we discussed a lot of important things, specifically regarding the Iran, Lebanon Israeli conflict and MOU, and how that MOU just pushed each group and on the extremist group, whether it's the Israelis or the Lebanese, more to the far right and more extremists and more likely to actually violate this agreement, making it more likely for Israel to stay and less likely for any peace agreement to actually happen. I think a lot of people haven't talking much about how NATO doesn't feel comfortable using AI in the military, especially many of the military in NATO have higher ethics apparently than the United States when it comes to using AI. The United States is way more willingly to use AI. And one of the biggest not the main, one of the biggest things that kept the NATO nations from actually joining this war is that they are actually well informed that the United States and Israel both use the AI software to determine mass targets, where they can hit like 80 to 100 target at 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, they can hit like 80 targets, 100 target, 200 targets. That's with the help they determine these targets using AI. Usually, it's much less than that. So the NATO allies really don't feel comfortable, with this, and that exact software was the reason why we killed 180 girls. Was it? Was it 180 girls in a girls' school in Iran? Yeah, we killed a whole bunch of kids, hundreds of them, 100 of them at least, just because we used AI. So these countries are taking it serious. They don't want to make these type of mistakes. 160, thank you. Who actually supports Hezbollah? Who wants them? The people? Um, I doubt all of the people. What's the percentage of the Shia population in Lebanon? So the Shia population in Lebanon is around 32%. So you could assume around 32%, maybe 35% support for Hezbollah. Maybe I give them a little bit extra points, a little bit less points, depending on the mood of the nation. But the Hezbollah supported by Iran and supported by other Shia factions around the region because they follow the same belief. So they're brothers and sisters and the faith, and that takes precedence for them. And so they have few allies, mostly Iran and Shia, but that's about it. There is some perspective that these guys are defending Lebanon. And then there's another perspective that these guys are making Lebanon a target. So it depends who you ask. You get a different perspective on the problem from the Arabs in Lebanon. If Hezbollah would have been asked to come to the table, there's a good chance they would, yeah, with the permission of Iran. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't they? I have 20% of my battery, so we'll have maybe like another 15 minutes or so. Who are the who? How are weapons? Someone's asking how weapons are smuggled into Lebanon. Before the Assad regime, I explained it earlier. I'm gonna make it quick. I explained it earlier. This is Iran. Iran. They would go from Iran to Iraq, from Iraq to Syria, from Syria to Lebanon. Syria used to be run by Bashar al Assad. Bashar al Assad used to be allied with Iran. Bashar al Assad fell. Right now we have Al Julani. Al Julani, a former Al Qaeda ISIS leader, is now the president of Syria, and he does not get along with the Iranians. I also said that I'm working on an article today that will be published later today about the how much is Syria involved. So pay attention, keep your eyes open, make sure you read it. I also published an article this morning that this podcast is based on. So if you have an extra minute or so, not a minute, 20 minutes, I would say, take a listen or take a read for this article. It explains in details with game theories and analysis why this deal is not working in Lebanon. So this is something I strongly recommend. It will help you understand way, way, way better than you think you understand at the moment. So yeah, it will become very handy for you. It'll give you a good, wide, comprehensive understanding of what the fuck is happening and why it's happening, why it's working, why it's not working. It will answer a lot of your questions. If you have a notebook and a pen to take notes, that'll help you even more. I think your scenario three will last for a few weeks, then descent into scenario two. I agree. I think scenario three would go into scenario two. We're right now at scenario three. If you would, that's what I was saying. Right now we're at scenario three. In a few weeks, I agree. We might be at scenario two. Yes, we love our daddy president for sure, Mr. Tofu. We love our daddy president, Baba Trump, like we say in Saudi Arabia, Baba Salman, Baba Abdullah. We say Dahin right now, we say Baba Trump. NATO leader says, the leader of NATO says Daddy Trump. Am I going to be better than the leader of NATO? And maybe we say Mama Ivanka, I don't know. The whole world is going to say Baba Trump, Mama Ivanka. That should be their nonprofit organization. Yeah, yeah, that would work. Like Bill Gates and what's his wife name? Bill and Melinda Foundation, Baba Trump and Mama Ivanka Foundation. Oh yeah, no, they don't steal. They take money to spend it on other projects for the nonprofit. You don't understand. They have good intentions. La hawla. You guys don't have enough respect for your leaders. Back in Saudi Arabia, we have to kiss their hands, kiss their shoulder, kiss their head, and maybe if you're not having a good day, maybe you have to kiss their feet. Your leader doesn't make you kiss his hand yet. You don't tell Mohammed bin Salman, respect his hand. He kills 300 peoples on average every year, beheading. If you don't believe me, look at the numbers. That's how MBS gets respect. I saw my first beheading at the age of 10, I believe 10 or 9. And when we missed the beheadings, we didn't miss the bodies that were crucified. They weren't crucified because their hands weren't like up, but they were hung sometimes for days or for weeks, and they were headless, without the head, depending on the crime. So if you didn't see the beheading as a child, you also saw the leftover of the beheading, or the victims of the beheading. And the reason they do that is, according to the Saudi government, to tell people that if you do the same crime, this is what will happen to you. Did that put an end to these crimes? No, it didn't put an end to these crimes. Now the Saudi government does these executions, but I haven't heard that they do them publicly. They do them behind doors because they have way more. So previously in Saudi Arabia, you didn't have tourism. You only have religious tourism where people went to go get pilgrimage. It was until in the last, 5, 6, 10 years, I think, the kingdom started changing that, and they started allowing tourists. So when there was only diplomats, these diplomats, and I've met several of them, would go to the execution square and would, take photography pictures. I interviewed one of my friends who is a former U.S. diplomat in Saudi Arabia. Actually, I got a diplomatic award from the U.S. consulate in Jeddah for my work with them. But he was telling me how he was there when Raif Badawi, uh, a freedom of speech person who was writing about like where he should have more freedom of expression on a blog or something like that. And he was flogged for big number of times in public. So my friend Elliot was there to take the picture and documented, and he wrote several articles about it and published the videos and stuff. And I think he might have documented a beheading before. So it has happened before. And Many decades ago, there was a Saudi princess that fell in love with a commoner, and they tried to flee the country, and they both got executed publicly in front of everyone, um, for trying to run away. We have many, many crazy stories. What's your opinion on that combination scenario? We just explained. I just agreed with you on that scenario. Wajeeh, I was referring to your article where you were talking about the International Memorandum, Maritime Organization. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. That is trying to mobilize the ships and crews that were stranded. Yes, 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 yes. They stopped when the ships was bombed. They would continue, but the bombing hasn't stopped. So, what Teresa's asking is that the International Maritime Organization that was running the evacuation of all these ships inside the Strait of Hormuz was taking management of that, and Iran was also trying to manage the strait, and that didn't go too well. So Iran started attacking ships, and the IMO immediately stopped managing the strait. And so far, the US and Iran are still exchanging missiles. So the I don't see how the International Maritime Organization would want to start doing more evacuation without coordinating with Iran. I think they really need to take a second and work with the Iranians on this. Waji, I wanted to encourage everyone to contact all representatives regarding Section 219 today. We can visit your post to find all the contact info. This will be discussed today with voting like this week. Isn't voting coming up soon, y'all? Voting is in November, midterm election. I have it memorized by now. See any more questions? I don't see any more questions. Let's see. Voila. Your content was removed due to a violation community guidelines. Motherfucker, I didn't break the guideline. If this happens again, this policy within 90 days, not 30 days or 60 days, you'll get a strike again. You won't be able to do things like uploading posts or live streams for 1 week. If they give me a strike, I won't be able to do any posts on Twitter. I mean on YouTube or live stream for 1 week. So I still haven't heard back from them on Twitter where they have their support line. If you have a chance to go and support my YouTube channel, I would really appreciate it. Let them know that this is not cool. This is literally going to screw up my livelihood. It looks like my ability to make money came back, but apparently I'm getting reported. So let's prove these fuckers that there isn't anything to report here. Or unless you see something important to report, let me know. Like what's going on here? Yeah. And the Senate voted yes, they didn't strike Malcolm. No, they did not. But Malcolm did not upload that episode, and Jacob does not have a YouTube channel. And that wasn't like they didn't strike the episode. They struck I so like after I upload my long video, I cut my episode into like small sections where like it has like some of the biggest importance, like some facts or something that people could use on the rush without having to watch the whole episode that I publish on other social media. Well, I publish a 20-second video that literally says Hezbollah drone capability. Malcolm is saying Hezbollah drone capability is kicking Israeli ass or something like that. And he described how that is in 20 seconds. Apparently, they were saying that I was promoting Hezbollah. It's frustrating. What can I do? But someone was telling me that there is an account called anti-Semit, anti-Zionism is racism, and again, like I answered this issue earlier. This in this episode, I recommend that you go back and watch this episode and listen to my response because I feel like I'm a very reasonable person, and I believe that my perspective is based on the facts of what's happening on the ground. And also, my opinion is not isolated. But when you read my writing, you'll see, even in my last article, I criticize Hezbollah as much as I criticize the far right of Israel. Like, I genuinely have one more issue that I did not touch on. I come up here, and even though Saudi Arabia has the two holiest mosques, right? And I tell you, I have a problem with theocracy. I have a problem with a country that's based on religion. There are many theocracies out there. Now, if they kept that religious kingdom just to those two holy mosques, like the Pope of Rome, the Rome and the Catholic churches, I'd be like, okay, I have no problem with that. You have a holy city that you protect and you want to make it to your country. That's okay. I'm okay with that. Your right to exist. But forcing everyone into an Islamic religious country, I have a problem with that. Arabia, the Arabian Peninsula, was never only Muslim. I come out and criticize Saudi Arabia for doing that. Why wouldn't be wouldn't I see the same problem in Israel? Israel wants to apply a Jewish state, another theocracy. They have voting, they have elections, you have to get certain votes, you can run for office. Yes, sure. But by the end of the day, you're asking for Hasbara, and Jewish laws, and a lot of things that would put any Jewish person ahead of any other citizen. Theocracy. So I think that Israel needs to be way more democratic than what it is. Oh, how are the Egyptians doing? I have not been watching the World Cup, but you have Israel, not Israel, Egypt. I have not been watching the game, but I've been rooting for Egypt. I've been rooting for Egypt, and I've been secretly rooting for Messi. Salah, yes, with Salah, and secretly ruling for Messi. We all secretly root for Messi. No, you should see the Arab debate between Messi and Ronaldo. Oh, yo, 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 an endless debate. Messi is your uncle. No, me, Ronaldo is your uncle. Uncle is like in Arabic, saying this person is your uncle is like saying this person is in a very simple term. This person is your boss. This person will put you in place because uncles hold that type of power in the family and the Arabic culture. So, Messi's your uncle. No, no, Ronaldo's your uncle. Root for Canada, Brandy, Dawn is everything. How's Canada doing in the World Cup, huh? I'm thinking about making breakfast. Oh, the rain stops. Is it still raining? I hope Pride is still there. Maybe they delayed Pride March. I'm thinking about making breakfast and going to Pride March, but I'm hoping the rain stopped for the rest of the day. I haven't been watching the games this World Cup because of how FIFA is made it very hard for anyone to buy a ticket in the United States, making it very expensive. I don't think that was nice. Meanwhile, we have countries like Saudi Arabia buying people tickets, and Qatar getting their citizens on full paid trip to the United States, from tickets to meals to hotels to transportation. All you need is show up. When countries that put their civilians, some countries that put their people first on some things, they don't care about spending that money. I mean, I haven't heard of a poor Qatari. I haven't. MashaAllah, all the Qataris have money. First time in my life to hear that there are cars on the road parked on the side, left on the highway. That is not Toyota, Rolls Royce. You know, the price of a Rolls Royce key card or the key for the car sometime can be $40,000. Just the key. 20,000, 10,000, 30, depending. One time I was listening to this guy, and he's from the UAE. He goes, brothers and sisters, if you are buying the new Bugatti, don't buy it yet. I'm like, tell me why. Because I was thinking about buying like a four or five of them. He goes, the price of Bugatti is about to drop in the next few months. Don't worry, I will keep you posted. Right now, it's priced at $5 million, but it will go down in the next few months. Yeah, $5 million sounds about right. It's what usually people pay for, you know? That's how they think, Habibi. Not all of them, but some of them. I went to school in Saudi Arabia that my fellow students were Saudi princes. So I would hear some of them be talking. Oh yeah, on the weekend, my dad and I and my mom and blah 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 got on a private jet and went to France, and we had couple crepes and stayed there for a night and came back the next night. Motherfucker, you went to France to have a crepe and come back? Those are shoulders I rubbed when I was a child. Ah. And then I came from going to a school that's full of Saudi princes to going to first 2 years in Columbia, Missouri, and from Columbia, Missouri, going to another 11 years in Manhattan, Kansas, out of all places. Try to explain to them what fashion is, or try to explain to them Saudi royalty, or try to explain to them anything that, first of all, I come from such a conservative society that going to Manhattan, Kansas was so liberal. Like it was like, holy shit, what? You holding hands? You boyfriend, girlfriend? Oh shit. Like half of the stuff to me that I saw, I would have never imagined happened in Saudi Arabia. So like it was a good start. It was a cultural shock. But the conservative society of Manhattan, Kansas was liberal for me when I first came to the US. When you put things into perspective, that right to left line doesn't stop in your country, keeps expanding, depending on which country you're from. Anyways, we have 4% left in this phone. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate you support. And as Philip DeFranco says, you may not fuck with politics, but politics will always fuck with you. مع السلامة, bye bye. وبالإنجليزي goodbye. I'll see you tomorrow.